And welcome to our first edition of Teen Sports Chatter in a very, very long time. We've been gone for about 6 months. We apologize for the hiatus. And so with that, we are now being brought to you in HD quality, and we apologize for the break again. And so if you guys have been hibernating for the last 6 months, here's a quick update on what's been going on in the world of sports. So we have the Pats taking their 4th Super Bowl. We have Duke winning the NCAA March Madness tournament. We have the MLB starting, the NBA and NHL playoffs in mid-season, and the NFL draft, which took place. With that, I would like to introduce my crew for today. I have Josh Spain here on my right.
It's always good to be here.
I have Ethan Christensen on my left.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, Mr. Jonathan Davis on my far left.
Glad to be back. Thank you.
And with that, I would like to start it off with some baseball season getting underway in early April. And so a couple things on the season so far. The AL East is a clump as always. The AL East is 4.5 games separate all 5 teams. We have a strong AL Central this year, 4 teams over 500. We also have a great surprise in the Houston Astros. We're 12 games over 500 and winning the AL West. In the NL, we have a great surprise in the New York Mets, and then they are 6 games over 500. And again, we have a very competitive NL West with the Giants, the Dodgers, and the San Diego Padres. So now I'm going to give it to you guys, Josh. Who's hot and who's not in the MLB?
Well, a team I think is really hot, you did mention the Houston Astros. They are hot, but I think the bigger surprise for me is the New York Mets. All right? The Mets, I have it right here, 13 different people on the DL.
And some big players like
some really big players. The Familia, the kid stepped in. He's big. He's huge for them. He has the most saves in the MLB right now. He's been fantastic. He's had 1 blown save, but it's really not that bad. He gave up 1 run.
So the Mets are seeming to contend with the Washington Nationals, who were said by most to be the class of the MLB this year. They're finally creeping back up. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I got the Houston Astros as my main surprise, 27-14. Who would have thought they would be the #1 team in the American League? They've come out pretty hot to start the season. I've got Jose Altuve, who's a rising superstar in this league, and I think he could be a surprise contender for the AL MVP.
And with the Astros, I want to just interject there quickly. A lot of people say they can either hit the ball far or they strike out, and that's a huge issue what they have in a lot of their young players. What about you, Johnny?
Well, I think the Giants are actually making a really nice comeback. Slow start to the season, but they just got their all-star right fielder, Hunter Pence, back. He's been a really good addition to the team. They have Matt Duffy replacing Casey McGee at third base. Big boost. I mean, McGee was batting 196.
He was pretty bad.
Duffy, seriously, 300. I mean, that's just a huge boost at third base. Posey's coming out of his beginning slump, as usual, but he's batting about 296 right now. And you got Pagan hitting 329. Brandon Crawford, a huge surprise with 6 bombs, 25 ribbies. Dude's a monster, showing us he can really hit and play defense. And then Brandon Belt's beginning to hit the ball after that Cincinnati series.
Yeah, I think with the Giants, obviously great starting pitching, but the thing is they have 2 big injured pitchers in Matt Cain and Jake Peavy who are injured, so Bruce Bochy has got to do a lot of juggling there.
He's been doing some nice adjustments
there. Yeah, and I think
Heston.
When both of them come back, he's been phenomenal. When both of them come back, it'll be interesting to see how he juggles that 5-man rotation. And then who to watch for and who's kind of underperforming this year?
Someone that's really underperforming for me is the Baltimore Orioles. They had an amazing season last year. They were 96-66. That's a really good record.
And right now,
they're 17-19. They're really not looking that hot. Honestly, things aren't looking to get better for them.
Yeah.
I see them maintaining this type of record
especially
the whole
in the AL
season.
East.
Pitching is god-awful.
Oh, yeah. Their pitching really, really is bad. And, they're hitting, too. Yeah. They're really not that good. It's disappointing. I am an Orioles fan. I don't like to see it. I would love to say that things are going to get better throughout the season, but I just don't see that happening.
That's the same thing with the Toronto Blue Jays. They've scored 212 runs, MLB leading, but they've given up the second worst 199 runs, and they are at the bottom of the AL East.
Not one good pitcher on that staff. I mean, you got Mark Burley with your most wins with a 5.36 ERA.
All
right, Dickey. He's off to a bad start.
With ERA at 4.17.
Absolutely awful. How do you contend in the AL East with that? That's my question.
You don't. That's the thing. They aren't contending.
I agree.
Speaking of the AL East, the Yankees are overperforming like crazy right now. I mean, they have no pitching. They have Michael Pineda, who just came off that 16 strikeout game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great performance.
Sabathia, 10 years over the hill.
Tanaka is overrated,
Injured,
I think.
Yeah.
They have one player batting over 300, and I think the reason that they're going to fall off is that good teams have good hitting, but great teams have great pitching. I think that's exemplified by the San Francisco Giants over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Their offense is subpar, I'll admit it. I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. But, I mean, come on. Like, their pitching's been incredible. Mad Bum, Kane, Lincecum over the years have just been unstoppable.
Yeah,
and I
Ethan.
really think they're just going to go
Who do you
far.
watch out for, Ethan?
Well, one team I have that's underperforming quite a bit is the Mariners. They got off to a rocky start after everyone, everyone kind of predicted that they would be kind of the team to beat this year. And Robinson Cano's kind of off to a rocky start, even though they have Nelson Cruz, who's off to a red-hot start.
Yeah.
They're just not pulling it together. They're under 500. I think they're third. They're third in the AL West right now.
Yeah,
They got to step it up.
And I was actually watching the Red Sox game, but from the Seattle side of the telecast, and they said something very interesting. I think it said they have a Cy Young candidate and someone who could definitely win the Cy Young, but then they also have someone who can win the AL MVP in Felix Hernandez and in Nelson Cruz, who's leading the league with 16 home runs right now. So I definitely think that's a team to watch. And I also think the Angels are underperforming. I think their rotation's better than a lot of people give it credit for.
Definitely.
And then I definitely think their hitting is they're very good hitting and defensive
Mike Trout,
team.
enough said.
Yeah, and speaking of Trout, let's move it over to players and who's hot and who's not in the players. There are definitely a lot of hot starts with hitters in the MLB.
Well, you mentioned him a little bit earlier. Nelson Cruz, 16 bombs. That's crazy. I mean, is he really going to keep this production up the whole season? I don't think
Not
so.
as efficient.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just his hot start, it's amazing. I look at his stats and it's just really, really amazing.
No one's beating Bond's record.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
I got Bryce Harper, who's off to a red-hot start for the Nationals. He's leading the league with 37 runs, 38 RBIs, and he's batting .336. He's helping the Nationals out a lot. One of the main reasons why they're leading their division, and he's going to be a superstar.
You know, I would go with Bryce Harper, but I don't know. I just don't like the guy. I think he's pretty cocky.
See, the
extremely
hair,
cocky.
the
And I
hair.
think there's also, I mean, the typical Miguel Cabrera, Miggy, is just still hitting the ball
So
incredibly. I mean,
And
your 2012, 2013
the
MVP
stats when you compare him to like Hank
to
Aaron.
Hank
it's
Aaron, almost
incredible.
identical. I mean,
Incredible.
that's a guy who I think is hot, and he's going to continue to stay hot.
He
More
won't go
above-
cold.
more-
He
yeah.
won't go cold.
No,
Yeah,
he never
and
will.
the person I got who's hot is D. Gordon. He's the only player in the MLB
Above
batting over
400,
400. But the thing is, he's so fast. He is so fast, right? He's getting on base. He's 403. He's got like 13 stolen bases. He's under Billy Ham. He's under so many people. I don't get it. And
They
I
just
looked it
fired
up.
their
I
manager.
looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Now
train
he's
wreck,
gonna
by the way.
freaking steal.
Yeah, and speaking of hot, Giancarlo Stanton, 38 RBIs.
Yeah.
Obviously terrific with the
Batting
big
like
power.
270 though.
Yeah, I mean,
The Marlins-
speaking of 270, that's like his contract, $300 million.
Okay, another guy that really stands out to me is a pitcher, Aaron Harang. He's 1.82 ERA, 4-3 on the season. You know, he's on the Phillies, so he's really not getting that much help from the batting section. But his ERA is amazing. I don't know where this guy came from.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
I
And
think
pitchers-wise?
Yeah, pitchers, just a slumping pitcher, Clayton Kershaw.
Oof,
What happened to that
4.24?
1.77 ERA,
Yeah,
that
right.
21-3 record?
I don't know.
It's
Man,
been
I don't
grinky,
know.
dude.
It's been grinky all the way. I mean, their pitching staff is still good. I mean, you're going to hope that Zach, I mean, I don't hope. I hate Kershaw, but I mean, most people will hope Kershaw kind of steps it up. But I mean, 2-2 on the year, he's not really doing anybody any good.
And the
right
thing is,
now.
Greinke's a free agent after that
Yeah.
year. So many people are
Oh,
going to say
he's gonna be a hot
getting
commodity.
max cash, right?
Yeah.
He definitely won't sign, doesn't want to be a number 2 horse in the rotation.
Pitcher, I got Corey Kluber, who kind of got off to a rocky start, actually a really rocky start for the Indians, but he's come out past couple weeks and he's been on fire.
18
He had
strikeouts,
18
right?
strikeouts in one
Everyone's
game.
like,
Crazy.
fire
Yeah.
Francona. They
Yeah.
didn't let him go for
Yeah.
the record. Yeah, right. 18 strikeouts,
Strikeouts.
threw over 100 pitches. Terry Francona's a great manager.
Yeah.
And then pitchers I got who are hot, Shelby Miller. One
Ooh.
out away
Ooh.
from the no-hitter against the Marlins. That was very
my
tragic.
goodness.
I think the Marlins
was painful to
they had
watch.
somebody come in as a pinch hitter. He hits a single on the first pitch. And then A.J. Brunette. Good old A.J. Brunette.
old
I mean, I'm pretty sure that kid was pitching
Toronto
before I was
Blue Jays.
born. He's got a
Where has he
138
been?
ERA. And I don't even know where he plays for. I think he plays
Yeah.
for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, 138 ERA has been terrific. Oh my God, and the Yankees bullpen. They're tall.
Miller.
Yeah.
Andrew
Andrew
Miller.
Miller.
And Daniel
Andrew
Betances.
Miller.
I think they're the tallest bullpen in the,
Oh,
in the
wow.
majors, and I think as of now they're the most dominant. And
Definitely.
along with the Royals. And then who's not hot?
Well, I already got my Kershaw.
Yeah.
He's
You think
definitely
it's
not
awful.
hot.
Yeah. And then to add to pitching, Strasburg.
Strasburg.
5.98 ERA. That's terrible. What about
I
you?
got Andrew McCutchen, who's he's batting .233 right now, not off to a great start, especially as the face of the Pirates franchise
yeah.
should be
They're,
you know,
the
picking
whole
his
team,
level
I
of play
think,
up.
isn't
Yeah,
playing up
yeah.
to their potential.
A guy that really stands out to me that's not doing super well is actually Big Papi, David
Yeah.
Ortiz.
He's old, come on.
I love the guy. He's so fun to watch, but he's hitting 244, six home runs, 16 RBIs. I mean,
He's already done,
just
he's
wait for
already
the-
done so much.
Just wait for the playoffs to come
think
around,
I
then
just,
he'll pick it
You
up.
know, it's Big Papi. I just expect a little more from him.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's old, guys.
He's
Come
an
on,
old
give him
guy.
a
I
break.
don't know about that
He's a
one.
big fat guy.
I wouldn't agree with you,
It's
but
Big Papi.
Yeah.
I just
that's like
expect
expecting
more. out of
Barry
him.
Bonds to come back and smash like 15 home runs.
Just
Yeah.
wait for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just wait for the playoffs.
All right,
Then
and
he'll
with
step it
that,
up.
that concludes our baseball segment. And thanks to you guys for a great baseball
Kunal.
segment. Obviously, early in the season, still got a lot to talk about. And now we're going to give you, as we change our sets, introduce some new boys onto the show. Me and Ethan are going to give you guys a quick hockey update. So just like in basketball, we're in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals of the NHL playoffs, right? And so in the East, we have the 1 and 2 seeds left. The President Trophy winning New York Rangers are still in it with the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are split 1-1. Unfortunately, we don't know the score of Game 3, which is going on right now. I believe when we saw it was 5-5 going
In
into
overtime.
Yeah, what do you think about that series?
It's going to be a great series, Kunal. I think it's the Rangers series to lose. They're coming off a great comeback against the Capitals. They were down 3-1. I think that Henrik Lundqvist is going to be the one that's going to carry them.
Yeah, if he's terrific, they're terrific.
He's the best goalie in the league,
Yeah.
and where he goes, they'll go.
And in the Western Conference, I think this is such a great matchup. We have the 1-seeded Anaheim Ducks against the 2013 champion Chicago Blackhawks. The Ducks won 4-1 at home in Game 1, and then the Blackhawks pulled out a huge triple overtime thriller and won that game 3-2. Now heading back to the Windy City. What do you think about that?
This is going to be a great series. The two best teams in the Western Conference by far. The Ducks are stacked. The Blackhawks are stacked. It's going to be great hockey. I've got the Ducks winning in 6 or 7.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a terrific series. Before I introduce everyone else, would love to give a great shout out to Chelsea Football Club winning the Premier League. And with that, we're going to move back to the United States, back to the NBA. And I would like to now introduce Vishal Bomdika, our Warriors correspondent, and then Neil Vishwanath,
Great to see you guys again.
Ethan Christensen, as always, and the Portuguese Mamba, Joao Amar.
Thanks for inviting me.
And so now, today is Wednesday, May 20th. We have our Cleveland and Atlanta game going on right now. Unfortunately, we don't know the score. It was very, very close right when we started filming the show. Thoughts on that series?
I think it's a great series, but Atlanta, ever since the All-Star break, at the beginning of the season, they were a great team. You know, they were being compared to the Warriors, reminiscent of the Spurs. But after the All-Star break, you know, they turned into an average team. They were just sitting around 500. Cleveland, on the other hand, they were like the complete opposite. At the beginning of the season, everybody thought they would be good. They weren't really doing as well as people wanted. Then come All-Star break, they turned into the great team that they're supposed to be. And I see Cleveland edging them out in this series.
Even through all the injuries?
Even through all the injuries, simply because
Kevin Love, Kyrie.
LeBron.
I think that
LeBron.
if you look at their past series, even with all the injuries, Cleveland does have a lot of players stepping up right now. If
true.
you look at J.R. Smith, okay,
Iman
like,
Shumpert.
Iman
Dellavedova.
Shumpert,
Give me a break.
like crazy players you would never think
Yeah.
of, like taking up
Dellavedova,
slack and making
Dellavedova.
it so LeBron James really can just pass, and if he's only needed, then he really steps up and like takes over.
Agreed.
I think that it's the Cavs series to lose. I think that Kyrie plays a little bit more of an integral role as opposed to Kevin Love. I think that depending on how healthy Kyrie is, the Cavs will win or lose the series. If he's healthy, I say they win in 6. If he's not, the series could go 7. Maybe even the Hawks could win it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of injuries, DeMarre Carroll actually hurt himself in the game today. So he got a left knee injury, and it looked bad.
Yeah.
It looked really bad. So if he's out for the series, I think that's a big factor. Another factor, I think, is Tristan Thompson.
Yeah,
who
offensive
was
rebound, they've been
huge.
huge.
Huge
Him and
against the
even
Bulls.
Mozgov's been very
Yeah.
good.
That's so true. Mozgov is actually just stepping up and kind of going off when you're talking about DeMarre Carroll. Like each player on Atlanta is so important because they don't have one superstar necessarily.
That's also DeMarre. That's the guy they put on LeBron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. DeMarre, I think he's a great defender. And you take him away. LeBron. Okay. First of all, LeBron
He can just run wild.
He's been putting up like his triple-double numbers, and it's scary.
Yeah, like I've seen so many stats on Twitter, for ESPN's Twitter, about comparing him to Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan,
Exactly.
those kind of players. And then I just want to point out that the one team that gave Cleveland a good amount of trouble was the Hawks. In the regular season, the Hawks were so hot. That was a 2-2 season series. And so what do you guys think about X Factors? Is it DeMar DeCarroll?
An X factor. I think for this series, I mean, I feel like the Hawks, they don't really have an X factor because
I
they're
agree.
all like everybody's kind of equally weighted. I feel the X factor is more on the Cleveland side and J.R. Smith. I think he's like, and the way I put it is he's a disadvantage and an advantage. In the advantage side, he could be really hot. As of today, from
He had a
most
great
recent
game today.
stats, like 30 points,
Yeah,
somewhere
he had
around
like
there.
28.
But he could also put up 10 points and be shooting 20 shots. He can
30
be really
shots.
efficient.
I mean,
or,
he
like,
can be
yeah.
cold, he
Yeah.
can be hot.
Yeah, exactly. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
That's why he's the
Yeah,
expert.
yeah, for me, really, like what I thought about with the Hawks was Kyle Korver, okay, because he was shooting almost 50% during the season, okay, from three-pointers. But if you look at the playoffs, he's shooting around 35%, even below 30 in the last series against the Wizards. And, you know, he needs to step up for them to really have a chance. And one other thing I thought about was Jeff Teague. Okay, like Kyrie Irving, he's a great scorer. He's an amazing offensive weapon, but he's really known for being a poor defender. And the Cavs don't have the best pick and roll game, so I kind of want to see Jeff Teague, Al Horford step up. That's the only way
Yeah, I
really
wouldn't
see
say
it
poor,
winning.
but I would definitely say under par, and then the knee tendonitis is right,
Yeah.
and that would make it even tougher to defend a player like him.
Yeah, for the Hawks, I got one question, and that is who's going to step up for them. That's going to be their X factor. They've got I think they sent 4 guys to the All-Star game.
Yeah.
One of them's going to have to step up and take control, whether it's Korver, Teague, Horford, you know. One of those guys is going to have to step up and go punch for punch with the Cavs. And for the Cavs, I look at a guy like Timofey Mozgov, who's going to hold down the ball in the middle of the court for the Cavs. And I think he's going to play a major role in deciding who's going to win the series.
Yeah, I think an underrated factor of the series is the bench play. Obviously, we think that LeBron was going to dominate when he's on the floor, but if you can have people like Pero Antic and Mike Muscala hitting
people
threes, yeah,
stepping up.
if they can step up in
crazy,
Atlanta,
it's
that
crazy.
gives them a big chance.
Speaking of benches, in the game today, Cleveland's bench is outscoring Atlanta's bench 28-22.
Yeah.
But all 28 of Cleveland's points have come from J.R. Smith.
Yeah.
No
Oh,
depth.
God.
That's
Yeah,
one
they've
guy.
done that.
So they need everybody to step up. And I put that as an advantage and a disadvantage is LeBron James.
Yeah.
So LeBron James, obviously, in my opinion, the best player in the planet.
Yeah.
And but the disadvantage is they relied too much on him. They're very simple on offense, a lot of isolation.
Especially without 2 scores and
Exactly.
Kevin Love. in
Second
that
most isolation
problem.
plays in the
Yeah.
NBA.
Yeah.
And also, off of Kyle Korver, he had 2 points the last game against the Wizards. Unacceptable.
Yeah, and he's only spot-up shooter, can't create his own shots. And then, quick predictions for this series.
For Cavs.
Yeah.
I would say Cavs in 6, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta takes it in 7, just because
The lack of depth.
lack of depth from Cleveland and their superior ball movement. They move the ball extremely well.
That is a key.
They're literally the Spurs in the Eastern Conference.
If they want to play
But
well,
not
they
as good.
have to move the ball better than they have against the Wizards.
Agreed.
But I just don't see that happening in a 7-game series against LeBron James. I see Cavs in 6.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I got the Cavs in 6. I just don't think that the Hawks are ready to, really contend for a title.
Take
I
that
think,
next
yeah,
step.
they're not.
Yeah.
They're not there yet. They struggled with the Wizards.
Yeah, and even the Nets.
Yeah, they struggled with the Nets too. I think that they're a little overrated,
Yeah,
to be honest.
I do.
Well, honestly, okay, I like the Wizards, so don't go trash on the Wizards.
No,
I
I'm a huge Paul Pierce fan. I love
thought
the Wizards.
were gonna, I
The
don't like
Hawks
Paul
were
Pierce.
so close to
I
even
don't
going
like
to
Paul
7
Pierce,
games.
but I like the Wizards. Okay,
Yeah.
nobody likes Paul Pierce. And then I'm a little bit more confident in the Cavs. Okay, so I'll take the Cavs in 5. And honestly, it's not popular, but I could see them sweeping.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. Definitely,
LeBron
definitely
James,
with LeBron
yeah,
James.
if he
I got the
gets
Cavs in 6. People love winning on their home court. And now we got one member of Dub Nation here. Let's start it off with you. We got Houston and Golden State Warriors. Golden State taking the first game 110-106, not in the most convincing fashion I've ever seen, but I know you have some thoughts on that.
All right, so first I would like to start off with the advantages that the Warriors have. And I know this sounds pretty like mundane, but they're simply the best team in the NBA. They have the best offense combined with the best
pretty good advantage.
offense. And they have the MVP in Stephen Curry,
Such
who's
a
been
humble fan. Such a humble fan.
unstoppable the last 4 playoff games. But also, I think
Very
the one
unbiased
main
source.
disadvantage that we have, first of all, as much as I hate Harden, he's a great player, and I don't think we can stop him. Klay Thompson is a great defender. Couldn't stop him last night. And we still have the turnover issue, which I see being an issue if it continues.
And again, before Neil talks, whenever Vishal says we, it refers to the Golden State Warriors.
And, kind of going off what he said, one of the biggest things for the Warriors this whole playoffs, even if they make it to the finals, is their home court, okay? They're going to have home
so
court
big.
throughout the playoffs, and that is so big. It's like the Seahawks in football, okay? And another really big thing for the Warriors is their small lineup. Okay, you see
Howard
Bogut
going
yeah,
at it.
exactly. They just can't stop them. They're so fast. They're so quick. Draymond Green is just playing amazing against these guys that are way bigger than him. And it just takes away the opponent's tempo, because you play all these teams. They have a big man in the center of the court, and you play for that type of offense and that type of defense.
And
But the Warriors,
Draymond is like
they
such
just
a
don't do that.
yeah,
Exactly. You don't know what to do.
Draymond's such a versatile defender.
Pushes the ball
Such a
like a point
mismatch
guard.
at a 5.
He was playing point guard
got
sometimes.
a
It was
layup.
crazy.
Livingston at a 1 or 2 is such a huge mismatch too, especially without a pesky defender in Beverly.
Yeah, I think that the Warriors are just kind of a more well-rounded team than the Rockets. I think that Houston is kind of either hot or not. I feel like if Houston doesn't score 120 points in the game, they're probably not going to win it just because they're either hot or not,
Yeah.
like I said
I mean,
before.
they shoot the most threes in the
Yeah.
NBA.
Yeah.
Make the most
They make
threes,
the
shoot the
most
most
threes.
threes.
If
but
they're
yeah.
hot, they're like unstoppable. If they're not, they're an average team.
They broke the record
Yeah,
for
they
threes
did.
this
They did.
season.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
I'm honestly surprised that the Rockets came this far. I did not
Yeah.
think they were
Me
this
too.
good of a team.
I thought the
3-1
Clippers
or
were better.
something.
Exactly.
Or
I
the
thought
Spurs.
The Clippers-
way better.
The Clippers should have beat them.
Rockets, they rely way too much on James Harden.
Yeah.
And the injury to Patrick Beverly is huge because at the end of the game last night, they had a 37-year-old Jason Terry trying to guard Stephen Curry, and it was
Not to
just
mention their
terrifying.
37-year-old backup in
Yeah.
Pablo.
Yeah, I was
That's
just
He's like 38.
scared.
He's almost 40.
Why is Terry even shooting threes anymore? He can't
Yeah.
make any.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just horrible.
He hasn't
Yeah.
been able to shoot threes in years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sad.
I mean,
It's
back
kinda
to the
sad.
and
Yeah.
back to the Clippers.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's just
god.
horrible.
Choke.
That was-
And then
Once you go 40 to 15 in one quarter,
Oh
it
my
just
God.
drains
That's
you
awful.
mentally.
That's
You can't
awful.
do anything
Yeah.
after that.
And then
Josh
so,
Smith scored more points
yeah.
than their
Oh,
Like 3
entire
threes in a row.
team.
You
That's
can't
entire team
stand.
in the
What was
fourth
that?
Josh
quarter.
Smith
That's
shooting like
insane.
39% from the line. Yeah, all right. And then so I believe we all do have the Warriors winning, but if the Rockets want to win, what do you got to look for?
I think, honestly, the only way I could see them stopping the Warriors is they have to figure out a way to not. I don't think they can stop Steph. I don't see that happening. But they have to figure out how to stop our surrounding cast. It's the bench. Like last night, Sean Livingston comes in, gives us some stabilizing buckets. We were down 16. Some fans that haven't been watching may think maybe the game's over. Sean scores 16 in the first half, and we end that half with the lead. If they don't stop the rest of us, there's no chance of Houston beating us.
And while I'm on you, I forgot my question. All right, go to Neil.
Yeah, so kind of what he's saying is it basically is that if you look at the Warriors, what they're doing right now is they're taking James Harden like step back jump shots. Like they'll take that if it goes in. But the Rockets, they're not stopping anyone, okay? It's just a meltdown. And I see the only way the Rockets can come away with this is maybe Terry starts just getting hot, okay? Or someone has to take the weight off Harden's shoulders.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
maybe
agree.
it's Ariza. Ariza had a good game yesterday,
Exactly.
but he only took 10 shots. He was like 8 for 10, I think. He could take a
great
lot more
game.
shots.
Yeah.
And
No,
he could do a lot
When
better.
he plays
Harden
well,
was,
it's
Harden
close
was
game.
terrific
Well,
last
Trevor
night.
Reason used to play for the Lakers,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
that
well,
explains
that's why
why
he's
he's
good.
so good a player.
Well, I think that the only way Houston's going to win this series is if the Warriors beat themselves, and that's coming from a unbiased, basketball fan here.
Yeah.
And Josh Smith is going to have to play every game like it's Game 6 of the semifinals.
Oh my
By
In order-
beat
Just the fourth
themselves.
quarter. Just
There's-
the,
he's
By beat themselves, are you talking about like turnovers?
no, I'm talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
yeah.
poor
And
poor execution.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Josh Smith and Trevor Ariza are going to have to knock down everything.
Yeah.
I think an interesting thing to look at that nobody's really talking about is foul trouble.
Yeah.
Because James Harden, okay, he might exaggerate a little bit when he draws contact.
A little bit.
A little bit.
It's like 1,000
Okay.
flops a game.
But he led the NBA in foul shots,
Yeah.
and they got Dwight Howard. Okay, so they're going to be getting fouled a lot. If they can get the Warriors in foul trouble, yesterday Clay had 5, Stephen Curry had 3.
I think that's benefiting us. You're talking about Howard. We want him at the line.
But the thing is, if you start getting too many fouls, let's say
that's true. The
you
rest
foul
of the
him
cast,
and then Harden
yeah.
starts to draw more fouls, start fouling out some of those guys and gets to late game scenarios.
Those role players you were talking about, how they going to stop them.
But that's actually one of the really big things I was going to point out earlier is the refs are calling a fraction of the calls they called the past couple rounds with Harden when he just like chucks his arms up like
Yeah.
they're,
Snaps his
Let's
head
do it
back.
quick,
Yeah.
quick. Do it.
the head snap.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, and
he
then
just doesn't play the game.
so frustrated. Even though he hates him, still so frustrated. And while I'm on you, you mentioned Dwight Howard. If Dwight Howard played last night, would that have made any difference? I mean, obviously you have to know.
I
but-
think actually the game we would have won by more because Dwight Howard can't keep up with the fast pace.
If you look at that one play though where Harden passed, it was a
That's the-
clean
that's
pass. It
the-
could have been easy alley-oop to Howard. It was a
Oh, you're talking
bounce
about
pass
to
to
Josh
Josh
Smith.
Smith.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah, at the end
Dwight
of the
Howard,
game.
it would have just been an oop.
Exactly.
He just slammed it
I mean,
down.
that's one play, but then obviously
true, that's
the
true.
Warriors going small presents such a huge.
But that was a pretty big play.
Yeah.
They
That
were
That
down.
was 2 minutes left. I
There was
think,
2
in the
minutes
fourth.
left. They were down
Yeah.
by 5.
Yeah.
And
Another thing is though, Dwight Howard when he was playing and the Warriors were going small, he couldn't really take advantage of them.
Double team.
Because the
They
thing
double
is, Dwight Howard doesn't really have any post moves. So you could argue that he gets the offensive board and then scores. But he wasn't really doing that. He wasn't taking advantage. He wasn't being physical enough, which has been a problem for him in recent years. So even if he was there, I don't think it would have made that big of a difference.
Yeah, I agree. And then so let's go through the predictions.
I have the Warriors in 5.
Warriors in 5. I just can't see the Rockets
Warriors in
stepping up.
5.
I'll take the Warriors in 6. I think Houston will
wow,
take
so
another one.
generous.
Well, I thought it was interesting, but I'll take the Warriors in 5 also.
All right, so this is our last little debate here. I want to say, in a perfect world where we get the NBA Finals of the Golden State Warriors, who are the clear favorites, against any other healthy team in the NBA, you can make it a Western Conference team, but just what team could beat the Warriors in a full 7-game series when 100% healthy?
I think we all know the answer to this, and this is the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah.
They have been our kryptonite since when we first made the playoffs a couple of years, not first, but first time in a while, made the playoffs a couple of years back. And, we built our team off of the principles that the Spurs built their team. Steve Kerr comes from the Spurs, from Greg Popovich, and he implemented that over here. But the Spurs, even though I feel like we would beat them, but they would give us the most fight. They move the ball just as well, if not better, and they play defense. Not to mention Kawhi Leonard, the claw.
Yeah.
He can truly disrupt Steph and Klay Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, go to the Lakers next year. Yeah,
I
think
mean, we'll see.
The key there is a 7-game series. It's kind of like playing LeBron in a 7-game series. It's so hard to beat such a great coach like Greg Popovich. Set 4
coach
times.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 times. It's hard.
Hard enough to beat them once.
Yeah, exactly.
An interesting thing, I think, is the fact that Neil mentioned the home court advantage for the Warriors. So although I do think the Spurs could beat the Warriors, I would still take the Warriors, even though I think in
in
a
a Game
neutral
7
setting, I think
environment.
Spurs would win 7 games
Yeah.
over the
Yeah,
Warriors.
I mean, the
loud,
Oracle
but
is such a huge.
With the home court advantage, I think the Warriors could take it. in 7.
They set a new sound record in Oracle last
bet.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
apparently.
you hear
It's
players
crazy.
talking about they can't hear anybody else talking, they can't hear the plays, they get confused, it's insane.
All right, so I think we all
Spurs,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
Spurs
Since we
too.
all think the Spurs, say Tim Duncan retires, Kawhi goes to the Lakers, Manu retires, and Tony Parker retires. You know,
That could all happen
worst
this
scenario.
summer. That could all happen.
And Popovich decides to take a year
like
off.
50 years
now,
old.
Yeah, that's so true.
Maybe
38.
Popovich comes to the Lakers.
Now
I
who
don't
is it?
know.
Now
I'm
who
not
is it?
big-
Who's the
Now,
next team
we can
behind
still
the
pick a
Warriors?
Western Conference team?
Yeah.
Honestly, some people would like to go with the Cavs here. I would say Memphis. We beat them the last round. That was when they were hobbled. Mike Conley had a broken face, and he played through the series and played really well, in my opinion. Tony Allen was
Yeah, he's
injured.
injured.
Yeah,
And
he's such a great.
And when he was in, you saw Steph
could see a
went 2 of
difference.
10 and then 2 of 11.
First
That's
team all defense.
terrible.
First team all defense. All right, quickly, you three.
I think the Clippers. I actually thought the Clippers had a good chance of
talent.
beating the Rockets. Just so much talent.
Yeah.
They're equally deep as the Warriors.
A completely healthy Cleveland Cavaliers team, I think, could give them a trouble.
Yep.
I love Memphis. I love their defense. So I think that.
Yeah, I think Cleveland. I think with all the healthy talent. And so with that, we got a Dubs and Cavs final. I do believe we all got the Dubs winning. And with that, I would like to conclude this show. It's so great to be back with you guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll hopefully see you soon before the NBA Finals to give you our full analysis on that.